Okay, so we just had a big transition. We just got up, we moved around. So let's kind of settle ourselves. So let's do something I like to call smell the flower and blow out the candle. Everybody breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. 2 more times. And now we're ready to relax and focus and listen. This has been a long time coming. I feel like I'm at the point in my emotional recovery where I needed to start helping people with my experiences. So this piece is titled Mishandled or Well-Meaning People. So I got my period for the first time when I was 10. A well-meaning person gave me 2 pieces of advice. The first was your weight during the year after you get your period will reflect your weight for the rest of your life. Basically, my brain interpreted, if I was chubby that year, I would always be chubby. The second was, one of the signs you're going to get your period is if you have a lot of discharge. Or at least that was my interpretation. My formative years were a mix of well-meaning people and my interpretations of their actions, all of which seem, at least to adult me, mishandled. At sleepaway camp the following summer when I was 11, a well-meaning person was upset that my friends and I had French kissed our boyfriends. Her position was that French kissing was a kind of a gateway to other things we were too young for. One night at camp that summer, I was assaulted. The term originally used to describe it was that I was molested. In Spanish, the word for annoy is molestar. I can honestly say that the situation could not be described as annoying. 2 friends and I were attacked by 3 boys a year older than us. They attempted to feel us up and grab us while their friends held us down. We were in a well-lit area. I finally managed to kick enough to propel myself away. I ran back to the bunk, attempting to figure out what to tell that well-meaning person, because it looked like they had been right about the kissing. When I told her, she did not believe me, and it took one of the other girls escaping and making it back to the bunk for her to spring into action to help the 3rd girl. The administration at camp did not believe us. I tried to get in touch with my mom, but I later found out that they were out of town. The head of the girls' side of camp was friends with a family member of mine, so we called her. This well-meaning person told my family member that the boys said that they didn't do anything and that they believed the boys. My well-meaning family member said boys would be boys, and it was probably something my 12-year-old cousin would do. The girls and I no longer felt safe at camp, so we left. I felt like I did not get the response necessary for such a trauma. I was afraid of the dark. I was afraid to be outside at night. I was just plain afraid. For a school assignment that year, about a time we were exploited, I wrote about the incident at camp. A well-meaning person asked why I would want to bring that up and not forget about it. After playing tackle football with some male friends, an activity where I was in control, another well-meaning person said that if I was so upset about what happened at camp, I wouldn't be letting boys tackle me. Then there were all the well-meaning people with, it could have been worse. In general, as a teenager, I felt like I was making a huge deal out of some boys painfully grabbing my breasts over my shirt and holding me down. I felt like if it had been worse, then maybe the well-meaning people around me could have handled it better. So well-meaning me decided in my late teens to tell people the story of what happened to me by sharing the worst-case scenario. I know it isn't right to lie. I know that. I just wanted people to help me make sense of something I felt was stolen from me. But if they did not think it was that bad, then I would tell them something to make them think so. I understand that I was young and traumatized, and I still feel some guilt about how I mishandled the situation. But more than anything, I feel anger towards the other well-meaning people that put me in that position. I was 11. I had to act out to get the care and attention that I so desperately needed after the negative attention of the boys. I feel embarrassed articulating this, but I feel like it's important. No one handled this in a good way. I know I was supposed to put myself in the shoes of, I'm supposed to put myself in the shoes of all these well-meaning people, but the fact of the matter is, if they had put themselves in my shoes, they would have handled all of this in a better way. Remember, the well-meaning first period advice about my weight? After camp that summer, which was about 10 months after my first period, some well-meaning people put me on Weight Watchers. I may have had a choice, but I also wanted to please them. I was 11, I was 4'10", and I was 146 pounds. I was successful and lost 20 pounds. However, I felt that between the trauma at camp, my diet, and other aspects of my life that I had no control over, I was continuously isolated from my friends. As an adult, in my more bitter moments, I questioned the timing of putting me on Weight Watchers at that moment. I'm so glad that 11-year-old me did not see it as some kind of message that if I had been thinner, I would not have been violated, because it could have totally been misinterpreted that way. One of the girls from that awful night at camp came to stay at my house that same summer. We had unbelievable sexual tension before our assault, and it hadn't dissipated. I know we were 11 and traumatized, but it was kind of freeing to explore each other's bodies and be in total control. Unfortunately, being 11, I took my arousal for excessive discharge and remembered that well-meaning person, what they told me when I got my period, and I thought my period was imminently arriving. I was so embarrassed that I ran to the bathroom 3 times to clean up. I will never forget when a boy fingered me for the first time when I was 14. I was so uncomfortable, but so grateful that I wasn't having any discharge and therefore was not going to get my period while we were fooling around. I became somewhat promiscuous from the age of 13 on because I felt in control of what was happening to my body. A few years later, I attempted to describe the 2 types of people that come out of trauma: the people who don't want anyone to touch them, and the people that want to be in control of every touch that they experience. This past summer, I read an amazing young adult novel by Amber Smith called The Way I Used to Be, and it's about a girl who gets raped by an acquaintance and spends the next few years being promiscuous for the same reasons as I chose to. And I felt so validated. When I was 22 years old, I had my period for 18 days. I was exhausted and emotional and living away from home. I did not think anything of it because my period was always weird and I was prone to depression. After some intense cramping, I started gushing blood from my vagina. My friends took me to the hospital where I was informed that I was pregnant. Since I was literally wiping my blood off the floor, I did not think I was still pregnant. But the well-meaning people at the hospital told me I could still save the baby if I rested. When I went for an ultrasound, the well-meaning tech said it was hard to see since I had a lot of fat in the way. 2 days later, I was told that I was miscarrying. Another well-meaning person gave me a pelvic exam during my miscarriage and told me that I needed to do something about the smell. Something was dying in my body. How the fuck was it supposed to smell? A very well-meaning friend told me that it wasn't a baby, it was just ooze. Well-meaning family members were not emotionally there for me like I needed them to be. Something had died in my body before I knew it was alive. I could have been a mother. It was awful. And months later, a family member's wife had a miscarriage. Everyone was concerned and expressing for this bereaved mother. When I asked a well-meaning family member why I had not received the same reception, I was informed that it was because I was not married. Now, that family member was of an older generation. However, I do not think they would have enjoyed that comment had they been in my shoes. Shortly after that, I realized that the first 25 years of my life sucked and were beyond my control. If the next 25 years were similar, then that was on me. I began a journey where I slowly became the source of comfort I was not finding outside of myself. That journey has brought me here. Now, 17 years after my miscarriage, I'm happy to say I am officially done with well-meaning people and their mishandling of my affairs. I have a wonderful and supportive husband and an amazing friend group. Thank you guys for coming. So I would like to end with this quote by Anne Lamott. "You own everything that happened to you. Tell your stories. If people wanted you to write warmly about them, they should have behaved better."